Today's plant that we're going to talk about is Biden's Alba. That's the Latin name for it, not that Biden. Most people just call it a weed. This is a powerful medicinal and edible plant. The common names for it are Spanish needles, beggar's tick, stick seeds, pitchfork weed. This is related to the sunflower. It has a taproot that goes straight down. It doesn't go horizontal. This particular variety is B. pilosa. This is a native to Florida. This is a tough weed to get rid of. People hate this thing. As you can see, it has small white flowers. The petals are under a centimeter in length, with the entire flower being, with the entire flower being about 8 centimeters. And it has 4 to 7 petals with the yellow flower head in the middle, which turns into the dreaded seed heads that everybody hates so much, that cling to you when you walk by, stick to your socks, stick to your jeans, stuff like that. That's how this plant is actually spread, is by coming in contact with animals and the seeds being dispersed. While this is considered a noxious weed that people hate, especially in the state of Florida, and this grows nationwide, there's 2 varieties. This is the one down here in the south. The other one's the same thing, looks identical almost, just a little bit smaller. But this is one of the major honey producers in the state of Florida. If it wasn't for this weed, it would affect Florida's honey crops, because bees get a lot of pollen out of Biden's Alba. The flowers are edible, the leaves are edible. They have a bit of a tangy, strong flavor. Some people can't tolerate them very well raw, so it's best to cook this. The leaves don't shrink, they maintain their shape and size. And of course, you want the tender, young, growing tips of things. This is considered invasive. People try to kill this thing because each plant can have up to 6,000 seeds on it. So it's a massive producer and spreader. So this one in particular, B. pilosa, has a number of medicinal properties. It's known to be good for the throat. In particular, throat cancers, things like that. One thing to watch out for this, we'll get into the rest of the benefits, but I want to cover something that people should consider for this. If you live in an area where opal is mined, or opal silicates are formed in the soil, you might want to avoid this plant, as this plant will uptake those silicates, and when you eat them, you can digest them, and they can potentially be cancerous to you. But that's the only known warning to this plant, is in an area where opals are grown, or mined, that grow naturally. You might want to avoid this plant. It is antimicrobial, strong antimicrobial products. Bacteria strains from Salmonella, Staphylococcus, gonorrhea, pneumonia, tuberculosis. It's also good for malaria and has anti-leukemia properties to it as well. Research is also now indicating that this plant can lower blood sugar and blood pressure simultaneously. That's a powerful medicine right there. It also has been shown to have some good properties for post-COVID infection and regaining lung capacity, strength, and function. In 1968, this plant was recommended as being a commercial crop because of the values it has. And for the smokers out there, folks, this thing growing in your yard that everybody hates so much, we all know smoking is an addiction. Folks got to have it. Some folks really need it. Dried, rolled, and smoked. This is a tobacco substitute. And I pulled this off just so you guys can see how the leaves grow. There are 3. I'm not going to get all the Latin terms of and the botany of plants, but as you can see, you get 3 leaves and alternate with the one on the tip. And that's how the leaves grow. They come out in bunches of 3 every time. It's hard to miss the little white flowers with the yellow centers on them. This makes a great pot herb. You can boil this down, steam it, whatever you want to do. If the flavor's a little tangy for you, like I said, the flavor can be a bit strong at times. Just let it sit in the cooked water for a little bit. It'll leach out a little bit more of that strong flavor. They don't reduce, so they kind of hold their size when they're cooked. They store well. The texture's good. They're not mushy or stringy or anything like that. And you can also make wine from this plant called Sinets. So it has a lot of stuff it can do for you. So you can chop this up, throw it in salads, the stems. You always want to go for the younger growth, like such as here. Not the old growth back here. This is going to be fibrous and stringy. The center veins are real thick in it. And down here, the center veins are very thin. So always young growth, growing tips. If you watch how a deer moves through the forest, they nibble the growing tips of everything. They don't eat entire plants down. They want the soft, young, tender stuff. And that's what you want for your pot herbs as well. And it's a great wild edible. With all the talk of food shortages and all the uncertainty and things in the world, knowledge like this that will enable you to walk out into your yard and find food and medicine is powerful. I think this is important knowledge that everybody needs to learn. So get out in the yard and look at your weeds.